Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for being here this afternoon. I have a few announcements to make, and following which, as is the usual practice, I will answer any questions that you would like on those announcements or on anything else. So let me start off with the announcement that I have to make. His Excellency Mr. Li Keqiang, Premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China, will pay a state visit to India on May 19th to 21st, 2013, at the invitation of the Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh. The second announcement that I have to make is that the Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, will pay official visits to Japan and Thailand from May 27th to 29th, that is to Japan, and to the Kingdom of Thailand from May 30th to 31st. The visit to Japan is at the invitation of the Japanese Prime Minister, His Excellency Mr. Shinzo Abe, and this is for the annual summit between the two Prime Ministers of India and Japan, which aims to enhance and strengthen the strategic and global partnership between the two countries. The Prime Ministers are expected to discuss bilateral, regional, and global issues of common interest. Prime Minister and Srimati Kaur will also be received in audience by their Majesties, the Emperor and Empress of Japan. The visit to Thailand is at the invitation of the Prime Minister of Thailand, Ms. Yingluck Shinawatra. During the visit, Prime Minister will, as is expected, discuss bilateral, regional, and global issues. India and Thailand relations are characterized by shared bonds of civilizational contacts. Our partnership has been strengthened by close cooperation in political, security, economic, and cultural contacts, as well as coordination on regional issues. And the final announcement that I have to make relates to the visit of the External Affairs Minister, Sri Salman Khurshid, to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia from 24th to 27th May. This is at the invitation of his counterpart, the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, Prince Saud Al Faisal. That concludes the parts relating to the announcements. If any of you would like to know any additional information about these announcements, we could begin with that and then move to anything else. Yes, sir.
So, what's the purpose of
Yes. Can you please take the mic? Yes.
So what's the purpose of Mr. Khurshid's visit to Saudi Arabia? Will there be discussions on energy issues also?
The visit of the External Affairs Minister to Saudi Arabia is the first in 5 years. The last External Affairs Minister who visited Saudi Arabia was the then External Affairs Minister, Shri Pranab Mukherjee, in 2008. Subsequent to that, we had other high-level visits, that is, the Prime Minister visited Saudi Arabia in 2010, and the Defense Minister visited Saudi Arabia in 2012. But the foreign ministers haven't met since 2008, so this is in the context of their ongoing need to consult each other. There will be an entire range of issues discussed. Energy in a generic sense, yes, because we import 17% of our oil from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is approximately sells us about, I think, $33 billion of exports to India, and we have approximately $9 billion of exports to Saudi Arabia, so we have a substantial economic relationship. In addition, we have, by the latest estimates provided to us by Saudi Arabia, about 2.8 million Indian nationals resident in Saudi Arabia. Their welfare, as you are aware, has been a matter on which there has been some concern expressed. Recently, the Minister of Overseas Indian Affairs, Mr. Y.L.R. Ravi, had led an Indian delegation there consisting of the Minister of State, Mr. E. Ahmed, and Mr. T.K.A. Nair from the Prime Minister's office. And the goal at that stage was to try and ensure that the Saudi policies, which are largely of domestic nature, are implemented in a manner that takes into account the humanitarian needs of Indian nationals who are resident there. Since then, Saudi Arabia has made some announcements, I understand, on May 10th, providing some sort of options for various expatriates, including Indian nationals. Of course, the regional situation is bound to be discussed, and that means issues related to the Middle East, and including issues relating to Syria, as well as other matters of common interest to both countries, regionally and internationally. So that's about the expanse of our discussions, likely discussions between Prince Saud Al Faisal and our External Affairs Minister, Shri Salman Khurshid. Yes, can we, if there are any on Saudi Arabia, and then we go to something else. Yeah, we come to that. Anybody on Saudi Arabia? Okay, now that we finished on Saudi Arabia, maybe we could go to, yes, Japan, you wanted to know.
Can you please elaborate on this visit to Japan, especially on the issues to be discussed, and especially this nuclear energy thing?
India and Japan have annual summit-level meetings. We also have a strategic and global partnership. We both believe that given our common values and priorities, as well as interests, relations can be even broader and deeper. Visits at senior levels are a cornerstone of our interaction. And Prime Minister Singh has been interacting with various Japanese prime ministers. My understanding is that since 2006, he has interacted with 7 Japanese prime ministers. Prime Minister Noda was amongst the first prime ministers he interacted on an annual basis in 2006 and in 2007. Prime Minister Abe was the first Japanese prime minister who interacted in 2006, and then again in 2007 when Prime Minister Abe visited India. As I mentioned, all issues of bilateral interest will be discussed, and of course, nuclear energy is an important aspect of our interactions, but we do understand that there are issues in Japan domestically on this matter relating to safety of nuclear energy. So we will take it at a pace that is dictated by our Japanese counterparts on this, but we will continue to pursue, because for us in India, nuclear energy is a major component of our energy mix. As you know, economic interaction is an important interaction between Japan and India. We recognize that Japanese overseas development assistance has played a unique role in India, catalyzing advanced projects of exceptional nature in India. And there are several visionary projects of infrastructure development in India which we are cooperating and undertaking together with Japan. These include the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, and infrastructure development in Chennai-Bangalore corridor is also being looked at. So we have a very broad range of economic issues that are likely to be discussed, and the two leaders will certainly discuss political and security cooperation also. We will, at a certain stage nearer the visit, provide you a more detailed briefing on what are the likely outcomes of the visit, what are the deliverables, and what is the program. Right now, I think we have a major visit coming up, so we focus on that, and then certainly we will have a briefing on the details related to the visit of the Prime Minister to Japan. Yes, Frank. On Japan? Let's finish, if anybody else on Japan, and then we go. Yes, ma'am.
My question is about the visit to Japan. Akbar, is there a defense component to the team that goes along with the Prime Minister? Will there be a defense attaché or a defense team? Since you did mention strategic issues, I'm interested in the composition of the team that goes with him.
The National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister will be on board with the Prime Minister, and he certainly will be able to advise the Prime Minister on those elements that you have referred to. We also have a defense attaché in Japan, but I think inputs from Delhi are available through the National Security Advisor on Japan. Anyone else? Yes, okay.
Can you give some details of Chinese Premier's program to Mumbai?
Correct. Yeah, just please speak into the...
Can you please give some detailed program of Chinese Premier to Mumbai?
Yes. Let me try and give you details broadly, and then, of course, Mumbai will be an important component. The Chinese Premier will meet Prime Minister both in a restricted meeting as well as delegation-level talks in Delhi. He will be given a ceremonial reception at Rashtrapati Bhavan, and also he will pay homage to the father of the nation at Rajghat. This is normal for state visits. Prime Minister will host a banquet for him at the Hyderabad House on the 20th. The External Affairs Minister, Shri Salman Khurshid, as well as the leader of the opposition, will call on him. The Chinese Premier is also scheduled to call on the Vice President of India, and he will meet the chairperson of the UPA. As regards his other activities in Delhi, I understand he will address an event which is hosted by the ICWA and FICCI on 21st May 2013. This is in the morning and it's open to all journalists, so we would welcome all of you being present there. In Mumbai, the Chinese Premier is scheduled to address a meeting involving all three business chambers. It is, I understand, with ASSOCHAM in the lead, but also FICCI and CII being partners in this. This is the primary main business-related event in Mumbai. But I also understand he is likely to visit the TCS in Mumbai and will meet relatives of Dr. Kotnis while he is there in Maharashtra. And finally, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra will call on him. This broadly is the range of activities for the visit of the Chinese Prime Minister here. We will put out a detailed advisory so that you can be informed of the information relating to opportunities available for the media. On China, yes, one. Sure. Parul?
One is, could you give us the elements of the Chinese Premier's visit? What are the main issues on the agenda? And secondly, yesterday the Chinese spokesperson said that we should, the two countries should redouble their efforts on evolving something, settling the boundary issue. So, what would be your response to that, especially because the Joint Secretary was in Beijing this weekend and held talks with his Chinese counterpart.
Yes. As regards the elements of the visit of the Chinese Premier in terms of substance, we will have a joint declaration. We are still working on other outcomes, which we will try and make them available to you perhaps just before arrival, because given the time that has elapsed and the work that is in progress, so this is a work in progress. And I would refer you to those of you who haven't read it. There was a detailed briefing provided by the External Affairs Minister. He did point out to some of the elements of the likely outcomes. Maybe if you could read that, it would certainly refresh memories of what are likely to be the major areas of discussion. That said, I will come to the issue that you've raised about the boundary question and how we see that. And is that the same question that you have?
Yeah, for the deliverable sector.
Yeah, okay. Fine. Now, as all of you are aware, issues related to the India-China boundary have been discussed through the mechanism of the special representatives, and this is a specially constituted mechanism which deals with this. The two special representatives have had 15 rounds of talks, during which they have completed the first step, and that is they have arrived at an agreement on political parameters and guiding principles for the resolution of the India-China boundary question. Now, they are in discussions on the second phase, which is related to the framework for a resolution of the boundary question. I think we've said it before, but I would like to reaffirm that India is committed to seek a fair, reasonable, and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question through consultations. Now, coming to the specific issue that you've raised about how does India perceive on the speed, etc. Now, I would like to mention quite clearly that it is our conviction that an early settlement of the boundary question will advance the basic interests of the two countries, and we therefore feel it should be pursued as a strategic objective by both countries. Yes, Mr. Venkat Narayan, on this.
Akbar, there have been reports in the media saying that a proposed multilateral military exercise involving the United States, Japan, and India was to have taken place in the US, and because of the so-called fear of China, India has decided not to get involved in that and go for only bilateral exercises with Japan and America separately. Would you like to throw some light on that? Thanks.
Well, I too have seen, like you, these media reports, and my understanding is that they have already been denied by those who were involved in this. There is a clarification which has been issued by the defense authorities who are in the forefront of these discussions, clearly denying that there was any truth to this news report. I don't think I can add anything further to it because that's available on the record as having denied the veracity of this report. Yes, Frank.
Hi. Well, so returning to the border negotiations, I mean, the statement you read out is reaffirming India's position about the border. As far as perhaps I misheard it, but the impression coming from China, at least from what I've been reading in the newspapers, is that it sounds like they're looking at a renewed push or new ways to try and move this forward. Is that something that India has been feeling and something that India is responding to?
We have thought of various ways on this, and this goes back to quite some time. For example, one of the mechanisms that we had thought of was, while the border issue was to be resolved, we could try and clarify and confirm the line of actual control on the India-China border pending the final settlement of the border question. That is a thing that we had placed on the table quite some time ago. If what you say is what is coming as your perception, that is available on the table for further discussions. But that said, I think I didn't only reiterate what I said, what we've said previously, but I've also said that, let me repeat it, it is our conviction that the early settlement of the boundary question will advance the basic interests of both the countries, and therefore we feel it should be pursued as a strategic objective by both. And I think this is pretty clear on what we would like to pursue as a strategic objective. Yeah, anybody else on this? Then we could move to something else. So we finished as far as I can recall, we finished issues relating to what I have made announcements. Now, if you would like to ask on any other issues, I'd welcome that. Yes. Just a minute, please.
Sir, is it true that Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has categorically denied an invite by would-be Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, to visit Pakistan for his oath-taking ceremony? Has he denied categorically?
I think you should be informed that India and Pakistan have very well-functioning, established diplomatic channels. And through those diplomatic channels, my understanding is that the Prime Minister did call up Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and in the course of that call, he did extend his congratulations on the victory of Mr. Sharif. He also extended an invitation for Mr. Sharif to visit India at a mutually convenient time. During the course of that conversation, also, Mr. Sharif extended a similar invitation to the Prime Minister. And on the diplomatic agenda, these were the two issues that I'm aware of, following which the Prime Minister then did write to Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and a copy of that letter in its entirety has been made available to you. Other than that, on the diplomatic agenda, no other specific proposal has been received or even heard of, except through, of course, the mechanisms that many of you represent and have been asking since this morning. So I hope I have clarified to you. While all of you do an excellent job, I think on this issue, there seems to be a disconnect between what has been put out through diplomatic channels in a very transparent manner by us, as well as by Mr. Nawaz Sharif, in terms of that he had invited Prime Minister. Other than that, these are both requests and invitations at time which is mutually convenient. Other than that, I do not see or have heard in a specific proposal for a specific visit for a specific time available through diplomatic channels. Yes, Naz, just a minute.
That not taking part in oath ceremony apart, but will the Prime Minister have any proposal to visit in the near future, any time frame?
I mean, he's indicated, I think you are aware that Prime Minister has previously said that he would like to visit Pakistan. This is a stated position. At this stage, there is no specific proposal on the table of a specific request for a specific occasion. Now, if you say ifs and buts, I mean, if ifs and buts were valid, I suppose I can't paraphrase it, but it's something like if ifs and buts were potter's hands or something, then there won't be any work for the tinkerer or something like that. So my point is that I don't think ifs and buts I've ever responded to, and I don't want to respond to ifs and buts.
I did not say if. I said will the Prime Minister visit Pakistan any other time? I'm not talking about...
Well, let's wait for specific proposals on this. As I said, we are in direct contact through diplomatic channels. These diplomatic channels have functioned very well. You would understand during the recent crisis, there have been several diplomatic contacts between senior officials of the Pakistani government and our government to try and ameliorate the conditions which came out of the tragic events when an Indian prisoner was killed there, and the tragic death in a regrettable incident of a Pakistani prisoner in India. These mechanisms have worked very well, and I would like to assure you that should that happen, it will be through these mechanisms, and we will certainly share with you, as we have shared the letter of Prime Minister to Mr. Nawaz Sharif. Yes, sir.
There was an old proposal to exchange maps on each country's perception of LAC. So do you think there is any forward movement on this issue?
You're right that this was an Indian proposal made quite some time ago to clarify and confirm the LAC in the India-China border areas pending the final settlement. You are also aware that this proposal could not move forward. If there are attempts to move that forward, we stand ready on that because this was our proposal at that stage. Thank you very much.